My first experience with Serato was actually Scratch Live. I was a makeup artist at the time working for this company, and this guy who worked with me used to be an old Scratch DJ. And I had been begging him to teach me, and finally he's like, all right. So I went over to his place and he had turntables set up and he had his computer, and I didn't really understand how that was going to work, but he showed me Scratch Live and he had all his music in there, and he was just like, yeah, it's like your whole music library instead of carrying around a bunch of records, which I love that idea because I don't have much upper body strength. So he would pick songs for me to mix, and he taught me like the basics of, you want to match up the BPM and whatnot. I still use it to practice a lot of things. Like, it's still my favorite program to use. And just as far as functionality and options and freedom, I still just like, I can't leave Serato behind. So I actually heard about the plugin over a year ago, and I was at their headquarters not too long ago, and he told me about this thing they were working on, and it was still in like beta testing mode. And he's like, yeah, it's like a sampler, but it's made so that DJs have an easier time of getting into production. And if you're more comfortable with certain workflow, especially if you're a Serato user already, it just makes that transition really easy. As we all know, a lot of plugins can be very overwhelming. There's lots of options and knobs and buttons and things you can click, and it can be a bit much, especially if you're a beginner. So we have Serato Sampler open. I found this one sample on Splice from a pack called Palestinian Roots. This is the original sample. I dragged that into Serato Sample here, and it told me the key of it, and I knew that I wanted it to be in C# minor because I had already done my 808s, and I was just picking a key and sticking to it. So I was able to really easily tune it into C# minor. It was originally an A minor, which it showed me there. Up here, you can change the tempo. So if you want to sync it to your whole project, there's just a quick sync button and it automatically matches it up. Or you can customize it. You can choose if you want it to play in mono or poly. So if you want the sample to just play portions or slices at once, or if you want to be able to layer sounds, which I did in a few different parts. So I took some of the samples and like tuned it down, and others I tuned up and filtered, and I was able to play them layered over each other, which I thought was really, really cool and super easy to do. Normally that can be a bit hectic to sort out. It's really cool because I can set so many different markers and cue points and slices here, and I can control all the parameters for each one of these slices. So besides that, one thing that I thought was really cool, I'm very indecisive and I'm a chronic overthinker. So I like when things give me an option to just like try something without me sitting there and fiddling with it too much. So down here we can set random slices, which it just like throws them on the sample, which is pretty fun. It finds samples for you, so it'll kind of like find the transients or where it thinks there's something worth sampling. What I did on this one was I just did set random, and I plugged in my MIDI keyboard and I played around to see like what samples I thought were cool or worth using in this. Yeah, there's so many options to play with stuff, but not so many that you're overwhelmed and you're like, how the hell do I do this? It's really straightforward and fun. So you guys heard the original sample I had. Play that one more time just so you know. But yeah, this is what the sample turned into once I played it. So yeah, to get there, I had played a couple of the parts. So this is one slice. So I just turned up the attack, I filtered it a bit, and I shifted it down a bit. So it just sounds kind of like moody and dark. This last note, I turned the release up all the way and I shifted it up. and I slowed it down a tiny bit. And so this one sounds just a bit more ethereal. And I have it on poly, so I played all those notes, and then that light kind of ethereal one plays over it. I started like just playing around with Ableton back in 2014. My peers and the people around me, most of them started out as producers and became DJs. And I was going the other way. I was going from learning, or having DJing under my belt already and learning to produce. And I feel like that is so much harder because, you just have high expectations and high standards. So going from that to producing and having to deal with the whole learning curve, like you suck in the beginning. It's hard to make stuff that sounds fantastic unless you're some prodigy and just like magically know what you're doing. I took a long time to be able to make stuff that I was actually not even proud of, but like comfortable enough with to share with people. It was really a process to understand music theory and all of the different, I had no idea about sound design. I didn't understand how synths worked and oscillators and all these things and filters, and I just didn't know. So I feel like if something like this existed back then, when I was getting started, I wouldn't have been so hard on myself, and I would have felt more comfortable trying these new things because it was a bit more familiar, and I feel like it's so user-friendly. Like, you see everything you need. There's not a bunch of extra stuff going on. And it's kind of fuck-up proof. But this is what I got, and this is what it sounds like. I feel like Serato Sampler is an amazing way to start if you are comfortable with DJing or Serato or just DJ theory in general. It really takes a lot of the overwhelming, scary work out of it.